Hey, Ben, do you ever find yourself getting down or having trouble staying positive all the time?
Sometimes.
Well, hey, today we're going to talk about 5 things that can help you stay positive and have a happier life.
Yay!
Yay! Welcome to the Friday Habit with Benjamin Manley and Mark Labriola II.
The Friday Habit is for creators, entrepreneurs, and agency owners looking for actionable ideas on how to grow their business and be more profitable.
We'll pull from our combined knowledge of over 20 years and interview thought leaders that will inspire you and give you the motivation you need to kick your business into high gear. Buckle up. It's Friday. Friday.
Hey, Mark.
Hi, Benjamin.
Yes, just call me Benjamin. Yeah, it's good to talk.
Yeah, man. Love talking. Love talking to you.
Great.
Every week we get to hang out and chat about all sorts of things.
I know. And hey, it's cool because one of our listeners has left us a review.
Oh, what?
Yeah. KN Welmick. A glowing review. Title is More Than Adequate, period.
Oh, thank you.
It also said awesome sauce, period. So that's it.
Hey, that's more than adequate for me.
I know, exactly. 5 stars, awesome sauce. I mean, this could be one of the best reviews yet.
Hands down. That's really good.
Yeah, and we really appreciate it. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we'd love it if you'd leave us a review. You can go to the Apple Podcast app. One quick way to get there is if you just go to thefridayhabit.com/review. It will redirect you there, and you just scroll down a little bit, and you'll see the reviews right there, and you can leave us one. It really helps us out, reach more people, and grow our community.
Yeah, so get on there. 5 stars. Leave a review. We love reading reviews.
Yes, and this is our first one-word review, so keep it up.
Yeah, it didn't take much for her, right?
Hey, do not diminish the effort that
That's
KN
true.
Welmick put into this review.
That's right.
It took a lot.
It does actually.
It's hard. It's a big mental barrier. It's like
It is.
It feels like, oh, it's going to be so hard to leave a review. I'm going to have to like switch apps. Your phone's probably in your pocket. Probably got to pull it out. Honestly, while I'm talking about this, you might as well do all the things I'm talking about because you're going to have to wait anyway. You have to pull your phone out of your pocket. You have to type in, go to Safari or whatever your browser is, thefridayhabit.com/review. Scroll down a little bit. Oh, there's the spot. Click there, rate it, start writing your review. I mean, by now you probably already written it. So
you've already written your review and you've hit and submit 5 stars. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
thank you for doing that.
Yeah, thank you. And we could start adding like a little bit of a moment of silence at the beginning of the podcast for people to just go leave a review. I think it could be a good way for everybody.
We're just going to pause right here. Go leave your review. We'll be here when you get back.
All right. And we're back.
Okay.
All right.
And we're back.
All right. Enough talking about self-promotion.
That's right. Today, I want to talk about positivity because...
Wait, Mark, do you think you're actually qualified for this? Are you even a positive person?
It's hard. But I just try to make the best of every situation and stay positive, All
right. I'll listen.
No, I want to talk about this because when I look at my life and I look at just the trajectory that I have been on over the past, 15 years, I can contribute a lot of my success just to the fact that I've tried to stay positive, even when things have been difficult, because I do believe that people like being around positive people. I think that because I know for myself, when I'm around somebody who's just upbeat and has a good energy about them, it's like, oh, I want to be around them and I want to have conversations with them. And so I've always tried to be positive no matter what the situation was. And I thought, if I can encourage someone who's listening to say, hey, if you're somebody who is like the glass is half empty or, always complaining about your clients and, having some sort of issue with every little thing and drama is where you find a commonality with people, I want to encourage you to say that there is a better way and there's more success and there is more fulfillment in life through positivity opposed to negativity. And, with positivity, our emotions really change our body at a cellular level. I mean, if you think about all the types of hormones and other things that get released in your body, people get ulcers and other things like that because of stress and anxiety and whatnot. So,
Yeah,
it's important to be aware of that.
for sure.
And so I want to go through these 5 things. I think there's more than 5 things actually that aren't on my list here, but I feel that when I sat down to write this, I felt like, okay, these are the things that I would say like, hey, this is a good place to start. So
Yeah, makes sense.
number 1 is have a lens of positivity. And that means just try and see the positive side of every situation. Ask yourself in a situation, what is this trying to teach me right now? We can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond.
Yeah.
There's been so many times, and really this is, I think, one of those things that has continually propelled me is when most people would maybe want to give up because this situation was so stressful, it was so negative, that I just tried to look at a situation and find myself of like, how is this, like, what can I learn from this?
Right.
And would try to see the bright side of even something difficult. I remember last year, I really got pushed to the max of my willpower and ability to stay positive. We had one of our largest clients. We were in New Orleans and we were doing this massive shoot, really expensive. And my main DP, videographer, he got strep and he couldn't make it to the shoot. And it was like the day before.
Oh my gosh.
And so I'm like scrambling.
Yeah.
And so I find my second, best option. And I call him up and he's like, yeah, I can actually fly out to New Orleans. I'll be there tomorrow. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, awesome. Problem solved. Great. Well, he gets into town and I call him. I say, hey man, we're like 30 minutes from showtime. Like, we need to go.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, I'll be right there. I'm just changing my bandage. And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Well, that night before he flew out, he stepped on this huge piece of glass, cut the bottom of his foot, had to get 9 stitches.
What?
And this shoot required a lot of walking and it required a lot of like a steady cam work and all these other kind of things. And so I went to the bathroom. I looked in the mirror and I kind of just, I collected myself and I looked in the mirror. And I said, what am I supposed to learn from this situation? Like this is nearly impossible that this happened and this is happening to me, Right. And at that point, I think there's 2 options that we as humans have. We have one is we can give up and choose to just cower and quit, or we can choose to push through the pain and we can choose to make the best of that situation and stay positive. And obviously I chose the latter,
Sounds like you. Yep.
And so I rolled up my sleeves and I just, got things done. And those are the kind of moments where I feel like have happened to me over the past 12 years of owning a company, where there's been milestone moments where like I've had a super difficult client or someone didn't appreciate what I was doing and I wanted to give up, but then I would look at the situation and say, well, like how is this good? Like, what is the good in this,
Right.
And so for me, I learned a lot during that season, and it allowed me to better myself and grow my business, create systems and processes that would potentially divert that kind of issue in the future. And so that's number 1, just have that lens of positivity because that'll get you through difficult times.
Whatever happened to the guy's foot? Okay? You're like, I don't know. I never talked to him again.
I never talked to him again. They had to cut it off, and he was a one-legged man. No, it was like, all right, since you've flown all the way here and you can't do the job that I'm hiring you for, let's try to find something else for you. So
you did it yourself? Is that what happened? You just like, hey, I'm gonna just do it.
Yeah, it's like I don't know how to operate a Steadicam, but you know what?
I gotta make learn. It happen. so that's what came out of it. You're like, hey,
I learned a new skill, and then also too, when we make it on the other side of those difficult things and look back, you find out like, oh, you know what? It wasn't that big of a deal, or nobody noticed, right? Nobody was like, hey, why are you filming this instead of the other guy? It was just like, oh wow, great, you produced something awesome, and it all worked out, and nobody knew the wiser, essentially.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we take things too seriously, and I
Mhm.
don't think we need to, you know?
Right.
And so we can be more lighthearted about it and be like, all right, this is all going to work out. I mean, haven't you ever been going to a meeting or something? There's like traffic and you're like stuck in traffic, and you can either go one way where you get angry and
Yep.
frustrated, or you can just say, this is outside of my control. Like,
Yeah.
I've done my best and I'm just going to focus on something else. Maybe I'll listen to an audiobook or a podcast like
Yeah.
The Friday Habit, and
Yeah.
focus on that instead of just being constantly frustrated that you're late to this meeting or irritated, that there's traffic.
Yeah. 100%. That
So
makes sense. Have a lens of positivity. I love
yeah,
it.
that's right. The second thing is gratitude. And I don't know if you've ever tried to be depressed or have a negative attitude when you
Try to be depressed. I've
Yeah.
never tried to be depressed.
That's
No.
right. See, but it's hard to be depressed or negative when you recognize all the good in your life. Even the small things like having running water or a roof over your head, or even a comfortable bed. At night you get in bed and it's like super cozy. Like one of the best things ever is your wife changes the sheets and you take a shower, and then it's like these crispy, clean sheets, and you're crispy and clean, and it's like super cozy, and it's like, yes, this is awesome.
So that's like the moment of gratitude is like, oh my gosh, this is the simplest thing in the world, but it is the best
Right?
thing.
Exactly.
When
And we're designed as humans. In research finds this, that the brain always focuses on the negative elements of life, right? The tragedies, the failures, worries, etc. You
Yeah.
look at news.
Yeah.
News isn't talking about all the people that are saved from hunger or malaria. They're just talking about all the negative things, because as humans, we're drawn to that drama, right? It's like, oh my gosh, what happened?
Yeah.
And so we're always focusing on these negative things. But if we start to focus on the simple things and the small things that we're thankful for, that will just start to well up this thing inside of you that you really can't let go of. Like you can't ignore it, because it's like, oh, you know what? Things aren't so bad.
Yeah. Well, it's really true that people focus on the negative. I even think about, how many nice things our clients say, every week, every month. And then we get, maybe once every 6 months, like somebody's like, oh man, they're upset about something. And of course we fix it. And we, like you said, we try to look on the positive side. How can we resolve this? How we can make them happier than they even were at the beginning? But it's so easy to focus on that one negative thing. All of the positivity goes away. You don't even care about all the nice things people say. All you care about is this one negative thing somebody said on Facebook or whatever. You're like, oh man, and it just gets you. So I love this idea of just being grateful and kind of getting over that by focusing on the positive.
That's right. Yeah, just be intentional. Think about the good and write those things down. I mean, a lot of people, spend time in the morning, whether it's through meditation or prayer or whatever it is, and they spend some time reflecting. And I think it's beneficial to kind of write these things down on a daily basis to remind yourself, So number 3 is sleep and exercise. I kind of put these two together because I feel like they kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
It's hard to exercise if you're tired.
Yeah.
But exercise has a physical and mental benefit. Obviously you're going to start looking better if you're working out on a consistent basis, but then also your endorphins, they say that when you work out, your body releases these happy endorphins, so you're kind of like drugging yourself with some happy medicine just by going on a jog or, being physically active. And so I think that's important. And then same thing when, listen, there's been times where I've had to burn the candle at both ends, and I'm working till 2, 3 in the morning doing edits. And then I'm going to bed for a few hours and then waking up and then going to my day job and just kind of constantly working. But really, when you find yourself with a lack of sleep, you find that you're just not as effective as you could be. And so, really sleep helps your mind to stay focused, and it gives you the strength to be productive and happier, really. And people who get a good night's sleep tend to feel less anger and stress. So think about that. The other thing too is we get distracted, I think, a lot of times at night by winding down, by watching shows or getting on social media. And then you find yourself maybe going to bed where you wanted to go to bed at maybe 9:30, 10. You find yourself going to bed at 11 or 12 because you stayed up late watching shows, which, can be good. But I think the sleep's better for you if you can try to set boundaries and set routines that it's good for you to get 6, 7, 8 hours of sleep a night would be awesome.
Yeah. And I find myself too, if I get into that routine of being too much hustle and I just don't get enough sleep for a few days, I don't even realize why I feel kind of crappy. I'm like, I don't feel that great. And they're like, wait a second, I haven't gotten a full night's sleep in like 3 days. Then you take it, then you finally get that sleep. You wake up and you're like, I feel like a new person. This is amazing.
Yes.
Like, oh, this is what life's supposed to be like. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Sleep and exercise, get out there and exercise. And a lot of times at the office, we'll just say, hey, let's go on a walk. It's nice and sunny outside and we're in a dark room editing and doing all those other kind of things. It's just get out, get some fresh air, some exercise. You'll be happier.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Love it.
All right. My number 4 is look to gain experiences more than possessions. And this is a hard one for me because I am a gear guy and I love the hunt. I love researching something. Like when I get on something, it's like, oh man, I will spend hours just like Googling and reading reviews and researching and like finding that new cool thing or this new camera or gear that's going to solve a problem. And, I'm maybe going to invest in it. So I'm going to research on how much it costs and, do all these other kind of things.
What's your latest thing that you got?
My latest,
or maybe not latest. You tell me what thing you want to mention publicly.
Well, I mean, I would say probably the last thing that I can really think about that I was a dog on a bone with it was your fault actually. It was my electric bike because you got me into the Rad Rover.
Yeah.
And so when I was like, ooh, electric bikes. And then it was like, well, Ben recommended this one, but maybe there's a better one out there. And then it's like researching all these other brands and other bikes. And I'm like, no, this one that Ben said was the best. So,
hey, that's both an experience and a possession if you think about it, because you get to get outside.
Now that I have the bike, but this is what I'll say though, is that there's always been times throughout life where I spend all this time researching and doing all these things and then buying this thing.
Yep.
And then quickly the joy passes and quickly that thing starts to collect dust and quickly I forget about the whole thing. And when we focus on having experiences, those are things that never go away, right? Like we can look fondly back on, oh, remember when we did X, Y, and Z, or remember when we went to that restaurant and it was this 5-course meal and it was just, we were laughing and drinking wine and hanging out all night. That was so fun. That was an experience, And so I think that a lot of times, especially as creatives and people who like beautiful things, it's easy to get caught up. And I would say even competing, right? Like when you see somebody with a nicer car or a bigger house or all these things, we start to focus on these things and want to achieve those, and that will really affect our mindset, right? And our attitude will be like, oh, well, I don't have that, or I don't have this thing. But really, an experience, a lot of times can be really inexpensive, and it can provide a more lasting, more positive impact in your life than a thing. So,
what's an example of an experience that you've had that you're like, I'm really glad I did this and it was totally worth it?
Well, something during like when the pandemic, right, kind of like at the end of like the school year for our kids, even though we started homeschooling, we just decided like, hey, let's drive to Mount Rushmore. So it was a 6-hour drive. We stayed at an Airbnb, and we just did a long weekend, and it was just really great. It was one of those things where like the kids are always going to remember that trip, and going to see Mount Rushmore and just having that experience. It was really awesome. There's been times where it's like, oh, let's go to Target and buy some Nerf guns, and once again, it's like you buy the Nerf gun and the Nerf gun is in a Nerf gun bowl in the basement and nobody's playing with it, and it's like, it's done.
Right.
And you can't look back on that Nerf gun and be like, oh, remember that Nerf gun I bought?
Yeah, totally. Well, and I love this one. I mean, to look to gain experiences instead of possessions. This is something Hannah, my wife, and I have also talked about in some of our values for our family. What do we want to spend our money on? Do we want to spend it on a bigger house, or do we want to get a smaller house and be able to travel and do great things with our kids and go on a summer road trip? What do we want to spend our money on? So I totally align with that. And I also think like not just going after experiences more than possessions, but also even like working on yourself and who you are as a person, even more than like developing yourself rather than getting possessions, like investing in training or anything you can do to be a better person instead of possessions. Because I mean, you're so right about like trying to keep up with people, because it's always like it almost gets in your head like a need, like a virus, in your head of like, oh man, I need this thing, and all of a sudden you think you have to earn it or have to have it to have some status, or even to like define who you are as a person. It's like I almost feel like in America and like consumerism, it's like to define who you are, it's about what your taste is and what things you buy. What do you surround yourself with to look a certain way? That's like how you define yourself. And being able to like realize that and realize, that's actually doesn't really have anything to do with what I am. It makes sense for the economy because you spend a lot of money, but in the end, it's not really about who you really are.
Yeah, totally.
Sorry, that got real deep real fast.
Hey, that's okay. If you're listening to this and you want to get deep, why don't you write a review and let us know your deep thoughts?
That could be interesting. That probably won't be a one-word review. That'll be a long one.
And we'll read it on the show.
Wow. Okay. Mark will read it on the show. I'm just kidding. I'm curious.
All right. And number 5, this is the last one. And I think it's big. It's helping others, help others. Research has found that when we dedicate a little time or money in helping others, it has a significant effect on our happiness. When you take the focus off of ourselves and we put it on someone else who's in need, it allows you to really have a better perspective of your own situation, and sometimes can remind you of how lucky you are,
Yeah.
And obviously you can't really be negative when you are helping someone. Some of the times that I feel like I'll get off a phone call from, consulting or something like that, and I'll just kind of have this high, like, wow, like I feel so good, and it was just me helping somebody else through a difficult time or situation, or helping them solve a problem that I have a little bit more experience in. And it just feels so good and rewarding,
Yeah.
There'll be times I get off a consulting call or something and I just feel like on cloud 9. I'm like, why do I feel so great? It's like, oh, I just spent an hour like talking with somebody and it like really helped them out. And that made me feel good. And then same thing, even just doing community service, or there's been time that we've done some team builders where we've done some work with Habitat for Humanity and helped build a house. And as a team, we've just had a good time doing these things. It's brought us closer together. And then also it made us feel good that we're helping build a home for someone who's, in need. So I think when you can really be intentional about helping others, again, it just improves your mindset and helps you stay positive.
Yeah, that reminds me of when I was a teenager. Me and some of my friends, every Christmas, we made it a tradition to find a few local like families that we knew weren't going to get much for Christmas, and we would like go out and like buy stuff at Walmart or something, and then we would like pack it up in a bag, and then we would like sneak out like around, I don't know, probably like midnight on Christmas Eve, and like drop it off at a few people's houses, And it was like the best feeling ever. We just like, it was just the most fun we ever had, and it was funny because actually one time, I don't recommend this part, but one time we actually went and decorated somebody's house with Christmas lights, one of our friends, without telling them. And so they came home and they were like, their whole house was decorated with Christmas lights.
That's awesome.
They're probably like, that wasn't helpful because it probably made their electricity bill go up, but hey.
We got kicked out of our house that winter. Yeah. Couldn't pay the electricity bill.
Thanks, Ben and friends. That was great.
Yeah, so that's my 5. If you think there are too many problems and responsibilities in your life and it's too impractical to stay positive all the time, think again. It's never too late to live a positive and happy life. So
I love it. Let's recap then. So
okay.
Number 1, have a lens of positivity.
Yep.
Number 2, practice gratitude. Number 3, get your sleep and exercise each day. Don't stay up too late watching Netflix. Number 4, get excited about having and planning experiences rather than buying and having stuff. Don't just be a consumer. And number 5, help others.
That's right. And the action item this week, if you want to have, I think there could be multiple, really. I mean, one is you could try to get 8 hours of sleep each night, like try to make it a goal. But really, I would say if you don't do this already, sit down and write down something that you're grateful for. Hot water, roof over your head, your health, anything. But just be intentional. When you write those things down, you'll start to see, just a positive pattern of, wow, this is good, this is good, this is good. And that will just affect your emotions and help you be positive.
I love it. If you want to leave us a review, like we've mentioned like 3 times this episode, you just go to thefridayhabit.com and check that out. And you can also find show notes for this episode. You can find links to our websites, to Mark's company, Brand Viva, my company, Knapsack, and ways to get in touch with us. And at the very bottom of the page, you can download our guide to the Friday Habit System. That'll show you how to set aside 1 full day each week so you can dedicate time working on your business instead of in your business.
That's right. If you enjoy this episode, please go to thefridayhabit.com/review, open up the Apple Podcast app, or visit the link on our website to leave us a review. Have we mentioned that we wanted you to leave us a review?
Man, we sound so desperate this episode. It's hilarious.
Well, we just love hearing from our peoples.
It actually is really fun hearing from people, so we do appreciate it.
Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to The Friday Habit. And until next time, stay positive and live every day like it's Friday.